Hello and welcome to this B1 Intermediate Lesson 18 with me, Kate. Today we will be looking at comparative and superlative adjectives. For example, here I have an adjective, slow. In its comparative form, slower. In its superlative form, slowest. To begin with, let's just concentrate on comparative adjectives. We use comparative adjectives if we want to compare two things. For most adjectives, most one-syllable adjectives, we do this by just adding er to the adjective. So cheap becomes cheaper. If our adjective already ends in the letter E, then we just add the letter R. So nice becomes nicer. If we have a small adjective that is made up of a consonant, vowel, consonant, then we double the final consonant and we add er. So big becomes bigger. If our adjective ends in a Y, we get rid of the Y and we add IER. So easy becomes easier. If we have a long adjective, an adjective or two of two or more syllables, like expensive, we make it comparative by adding the word more. More expensive. Now, there are some irregular adjectives, the most common being good and bad. The comparative form of good is better, and the comparative form of bad is worse. Well done. It's also important to note that with comparative forms of adjectives, when we compare two things, we use than. For example, Sarah's older than Hannah. London is more expensive than Manchester. So let's put that into practice. Here I have two pictures. Picture A, which says Happy New Year 1995, and picture B, which says Happy New Year 2000. In each picture we have Tom, Emily, Mr. Jones and Mrs. Jones. I would like you to pause the video. I would like you to compare picture A and picture B. I would like you to write 2 or 3 sentences comparing picture A and picture B and using comparative adjectives. Well done. Let's see how you got on. I will share some of my sentences. So let's look at picture E 2000. We can see that Mr. Jones has got a longer moustache than in 1995. In picture B, we can see that Mr. Jones is fatter than in 1995. We can see that Mrs. Jones has got longer hair than in 1995. Mrs. Jones is thinner than in 1995. Tom is taller than in 1995. The toy car is bigger than in 1995. The toy car is more expensive than in 1995. The dog is fatter than in 1995. Finally, the cake is smaller than in 1995. Okay, so that's comparative adjectives. We use that to compare two things, like comparing picture A with picture B. Let's have a think about superlative adjectives. We form superlatives with the, then the adjective, and then est on the end of that adjective. We use superlative adjectives to talk about the upper or lowest limit of something. For example, Elizabeth is the oldest in the family. Okay, so let's have a look at how we form those superlative adjectives. Here we have our table again. We have our adjectives, we have the comparative form of those adjectives, we have the spelling rule. So let's take a closer look. If we have a one-syllable adjective, and in fact most one-syllable adjectives, we just add est. So cheap becomes the cheapest. If we have an adjective that already ends in the letter E, then we add st. So nice becomes the nicest. If we have a small adjective that is comprised of a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant, we double the final consonant and we add est. So big becomes the biggest. If we have an adjective that ends in the letter Y, we get rid of the Y and we add iest. So easy becomes the easiest. If we have a big adjective made of 2 or more syllables, we change that to superlative by adding the word most. So expensive becomes the most expensive. And of course, there are always irregularities. The most popular irregular adjectives are good and bad. Good in its superlative form is the best. Bad in its superlative form is the worst. Well done. So let's put that into some practice. Here I have 4 animals. I have a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a mouse. I want you to have a think. Can you put these animals in order, starting with the biggest? Which is the biggest animal? Well, that would be the elephant. The next biggest would be the cow. After that, we have the dog. And the smallest animal is, of course, the mouse. Let's try that again. So we've got some famous buildings here. We have the Colosseum in Rome, the Eiffel Tower in Paris, the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, and the Taj Mahal in India. So can you put these famous buildings in order, starting with the oldest? Maybe you need to pause the video, that's fine. Let's see how you got on. So the oldest building is, of course, the Colosseum in Rome. It is 1,952 years old. What's the next oldest building? That is the Taj Mahal in India. It is 391 years old. What's the next oldest building? That is, of course, the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It is 135 years old. And that means that the youngest building here is the Sydney Opera House, which is 63 years old. Well done. Okay, let's have a look here. We've got some planets here. We have the Earth, Mars, Neptune, and Mercury. Can you put these planets in order, starting with the one furthest from the Sun? Again, you might want to pause the video, that's fine. Okay, so which one is furthest from the Sun? So the planet that is furthest from the Sun is Neptune. It is 4.495 billion kilometers from the Sun. Which planet is the next furthest from the Sun? That is Mars. It is 227.9 million kilometers from the Sun. Which planet is the next furthest from the Sun? That is, of course, planet Earth, which is 149.6 million kilometers from the Sun. And so the planet that is closest to the Sun from these 4 planets is, of course, Mercury, which is 57.91 million kilometers from the Sun. Well done. Okay, that's it for today. I have a question for you. Which is the biggest city in your country? Which is the biggest city in your country? Please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. Please don't forget to subscribe and show your support. And coming next in this series, lesson 19, describing people. Thanks very much. Have a brilliant day. Bye-bye.